There's a lot of good stuff going around at Clemson University right now. Spring football is underway. The Clemson basketball team is continuing to surge. And the baseball team just swept the Gamecocks. Let's hit on all three, and we'll start with football. Spring practice is going on now, and you'll get a lot of tidbits coming out, and it's hard to know how much stock to put into them. Traditionally, we've heard the offensive line is the best we've ever seen, and for years, it would never pan out to be true. And so I try to take it all with a grain of salt after several years of those experiences. But right now, I'm mostly focused on what are we hearing about running back. That's a spot where you could conceivably see them take a transfer if some of the young guys and new to the position guys are not ready. So I'm really listening to hear about Adam Randall, the wide receiver, who was a big-time wide receiver prospect from down in the low country of South Carolina. He was supposed to be a big deal, was physical, he could catch, but he couldn't get open. So it seems like, hey, if you don't have to do the route running part, you don't have to get open, we can just hand you the ball. Once he had the ball, he was pretty good. He's a big, strong guy. He's a little tall for a running back, but I like the move conceptually. It seems like it should work out. His upside was just too limited with his ability to get open, just not being very good. And now with Wesco and Antonio there, he's just not going to make a big move at wide receiver. Let's give him a shot here. It probably is the reason he didn't transfer out. And so he's kind of the leader. And what I'm hearing from TigerNet, from Grayson Mann specifically, is that he's been really impressed with how he's looked early on for kind of the first teamer in the early going. I'm not discouraged by that at all. I think him being a good starter is great news for Clemson. I have been harping on Clemson to use the transfer portal. They finally did this offseason, and it wasn't just to replace guys that are perfectly good. It's where you have a huge hole. That's what they did at defensive end. That's what they did to fix the depth at wide receiver. That's what they did to fix the depth at linebacker. I'd rather see a guy who's come to Clemson, developed, stuck with it, like Adam Randall, work out. So I'm absolutely rooting for him to be the starter if he can rise to that level. He's gonna have to figure out the pass protection. That's going to be a big part of it. That part will be new to him. But as a wide receiver, that was probably his biggest strength, at least according to PFF. So that's why I'm pretty optimistic about that move. We'll see. Gideon Davidson's the true freshman from Lynchburg, Virginia, who comes in. It could be a situation like ETN's freshman year in 2017, where ETN played a little bit early on, came in late. You saw the burst, but it was mostly garbage time. But as the season went on, he became the starter. I very much could see that playing out. He's a guy to be excited about. And then David Iziamume from Cobb County in Metro Atlanta is the other guy. He's a redshirt freshman. He's the other guy. Some combination of those three with Randall, new to the position, but a veteran on the team and a leader on the team, with one or both of talented freshmen, Davidson or Iziamume. If they work out, I think you feel good about the position. You also have Jay Haynes, who looked good a little bit towards the end of the year, but towards the ACL, I don't think he's a guy who's going to be a huge starter or even second string guy that actually gets a lot of the share, at least early going. Jarvis Green, we didn't see much of him. Keith Adams seems like if he was ready, he really had a shot towards the end of the last year, and they didn't really give it to him. That says something that he was kind of the veteran, and they were moving Adam Randall to running back for the ACC championship game. Keith Adams did get a big carry late in the Texas game. Didn't work out. I don't know if it was really his fault, but so I think you're looking at Adam Randall, Gideon Davidson, and David Iziamume as the guys you want to really listen for. That's the main thing I'm looking for from spring camp. Obviously you'd like to hear that Vizina's made progress, but I'm not really going to judge that until I see him in the spring game. He might be one of the main guys I'm looking for in the spring game, Christopher Vizina. We've seen him in 2 spring games. He's looked really bad. I don't want to put too much on the spring game, but I do, to some extent, on a new guy like that, sort of put some weight into it. If he looks really bad again, that's going to tell me something about the future of quarterback. But for now, it's Cade Klubnik's show. So mostly focused on what are we going to hear about the running backs up until that spring game. Another thing on football, it's breaking. We're supposed to get more details, but right now it sounds like the ACC has come to a deal with Florida State and Clemson. There'll be a settlement. They'll end the lawsuit. And it sounds like a pretty big win-win. I mean, Clemson and Florida State leaving would pretty much destroy the conference and render it, not a Power 4 conference, not even a Big 12 level conference. So huge for schools like Wake Forest, but even schools like NC State. Really critical that the conference stays together. They previously had added a success initiative where they took the money from the expanded playoff. They took the money from Cal, Stanford, and SMU joining without the full TV payout. They took that and they were awarding it based on actual on-field success. So we've now found out Clemson and SMU each got $4 million for making the playoff. So that's a good step in the right direction, but a small step. As part of this new agreement that ends the lawsuit, or presumably will end the lawsuit, they're going to take the rest of the money, which was all given out evenly. Only 40% of it will be given out evenly. The other 60% of that chunk, which is the vast majority of it, the other 60% will be given out based on TV ratings. It'll be a rolling 5 years. Of course, this is all early reporting, so we'll see if all these details end up being true. But rolling 5 years based on TV ratings, mostly on football, some on basketball, and that's going to be a big boon to Clemson, Florida State, another school, the school that actually led in TV ratings for the ACC, Georgia Tech. Those schools will see a big jump. Schools like Boston College, Wake Forest, we'll see a cut in their revenue. But honestly, fair is fair. Those teams aren't trying to compete with Georgia and Alabama and Texas and Ohio State and Michigan for national championships. We'll see as the details shake out. The other piece of this is that they agreed, basically Clemson's going to stick with the conference and Florida State's going to stick with it through 2030 or 2031. Then the exit fees will drop a lot. That's when all of the TV deals for the SEC and Big Ten start expiring. That's when you could see the next shakeup. But this basically gives us as much stability as you could possibly expect in this sport right now for about 5 years. So that's kind of a breath of fresh air. Is this too much has been changing? We could kind of settle in a little bit. We may see the college football playoff expand to 14 or 16, but that I don't know how big of a deal that really is. 16 would be more ideal. Just get rid of the buys. 14 would essentially lose Clemson, the ACC, their bye, and just basically give only the buys to the SEC and Big Ten. So hopefully it's not 14. Hopefully if they either stick with 12 or just be done with it and go to 16 and just stick there as long as humanly possible. But to me, those are less earth-shattering than Clemson being in a new conference. So that's where that stands. It's a win for Clemson in the short run, win for the ACC in the short run in 5 years, 6 years. Maybe things get shaken up again, but all good news there. Now, on to basketball. Clemson once again got another win on the basketball court. This is an awesome season, an awesome team. I hope folks are really getting a real appreciation. This is the best regular season in conference play the school's ever had. The school has won. Clemson has won ACC regular season championship. They went 10-4. They could go 18-2 this year. Now Duke looks like they're probably going to only have the one loss on the year in the ACC, and they'll probably capture the outright regular season championship. But nonetheless, this is the most impressive performance in conference play the Clemson Tiger basketball program has ever had. We'll see if they can hang on. But this has been a great year. In particular, this Virginia win. Virginia had just beat Wake Forest. Virginia was playing better, and they had beaten Clemson four times in a row in head-to-head matchups. And Clemson, the first half didn't look so good. Early on, the defense was getting crossed up, getting kind of lost in switches, giving up some easy lay-ins, easy dunks. The defense settled in, but the offense still took a while and really wasn't good in the entire first half. Didn't make it 3 in the whole first half, 0 for 2 from 3. Very rare. It's a 38% three-point shooting team. Virginia did a great job taking that away. Not something they've actually been good at all year. So a little bit kind of not what you expect. But they did a great job of that. Second half, Ian Shefflin comes alive. Not that he wasn't good in the first half, but really, really good in the second half. He finishes with 21 points, 13 rebounds. I was listening to the Roar, the radio, and he was the guest, and he was saying he's finally feeling healthy. These last 2 games, you're really seeing it. He looks like he did early in the year before the back and the calf and all that was hurting him. So really encouraging. You get that level of play going into the postseason. That's a big deal. On the flip side, Chase Hunter only had 6 points. We've heard his calf is now bothering him. That's really not ideal. Really like to have those 2 guys, 2 best players on the team, be healthy heading into postseason. Victor Locken also looked great. Del Jones was awesome off the bench. He had 8 points. He sparked the second half run where Clemson, I think it was a 15-0 run. Clemson took control, pretty much never gave it up, and was pretty dominant in the second half. Chauncey Wiggins is now coming off the bench. I think that makes more sense from just a team construction standpoint, because when Lock-in or Shefflin come off, he's the guy you can bring in. And he's not really a forward despite being 6'10". He's pretty skinny and he's an only okay rebounder. Not a good rebounder for 6'10", but you like to keep that size rather than, have Dylan Hunter coming in when a guy like that's coming out and getting way smaller. So I like him off the bench, but he's been cold lately. Earlier in the year, we were saying Wiggins was the X factor. Clemson's winning even when he doesn't play well now, which goes to speak to how well-rounded this team is. Wiggins only had 1 point off the bench. You cannot give up on Chauncey Wiggins. We've seen him when he's good. He is a difference maker. I believe he'll bounce back and he'll come through at some point late, in the postseason. We'll see him make a big difference. So he's pretty inconsistent. He's a guy that you would like to see start next season and be a major contributor. He's gonna have to have, maybe he has sort of what RJ Godfrey did last year, where he had some big time moments in the postseason, but instead of bolting for money at Georgia, he becomes a starter and really makes his legacy next year. But Wiggins is a guy to watch for sure. Dylan Hunter's the one who's now the new starter. And according to Evan Maya, who's kind of like a Ken Pom type guy, he's got some great analytics. He has that lineup, that five with Dylan Hunter with his brother in the starting lineup, those two, Lock-in, Shefflin, and Jaden Zachary. That combo of five, now the starting lineup, but a lineup we've seen throughout the year. He has that as the most efficient lineup in the entire country. So Brownell kind of going with the analytics there, also just going with pretty obvious eye test. That's an outstanding lineup. They've been doing really well. So as I mentioned before, Clemson goes to Boston College on Wednesday. They'll see, it'll be a reunion for Josh Beadle, who transferred there, sort of that trade with Jaden Zachary. Obviously, Zachary's been outstanding for Clemson. Josh Beadle, now Boston College. He's getting 18 minutes a game, but only 6 points, 2 assists. He's been okay for them. It's Virginia Tech at home to end the year. They're bad. That Virginia Tech team is bad. Mike Young is not getting fired. They just agreed to keep him, but give him a lot more NIL, so maybe he'll be more effective. Ken Pom gives Clemson a 95% win expectancy in that game. Virginia Tech has a losing record, 13-6. They are 8-10 in the ACC, which maybe is a commentary about this ACC, but they've beat Syracuse, Miami, Notre Dame, Virginia, Florida State, NC State, Cal, Miami a second time. So they haven't beat anyone halfway decent in this conference, and they haven't beat anyone halfway decent outside of the conference. The best non-conference win was Winthrop. So this is not really a scary team, especially coming to Clemson. Should be a pleasant senior day for the folks there. As we look forward for the postseason, Clemson they'll get the double bye. If they're the 3 seed, they'll probably match up with either North Carolina most likely or possibly Stanford. They took care of North Carolina, but the Tar Heels are playing better. That's really not the most ideal scenario. It would be really great if Duke or Louisville could drop a game and Clemson could be a 2 seed. But not going to count on that. It's still possible Duke can lose to North Carolina and Clemson could actually get a share of the AC title, but not going to count on that. Either way, as we look towards March Madness, Clemson's projected as a 5 seed now. They've just been inching up. These last 2 games, Boston College, Virginia Tech probably aren't going to do a whole lot to boost them. And then once you get into a conference tournament, your die is kind of cast at that point. Maybe beating UNC, maybe you get a matchup against Louisville, and maybe you can get a 4. But I don't know that the 4-5 is that big of a difference. What I'm seeing a lot is Clemson as a 5 in the Atlanta region, which would probably mean they start in like Rhode Island, like Providence, but they end that if they win their first 2 games, they go to Atlanta, which is cool. It's close. A lot of people can go, but that means you're playing Auburn, which is really what you want to avoid. So great to be a 4 or 5 seed instead of a 6 or 7. I was really just hoping for a 6 a few weeks ago. Not as great to be the 5 who, if you get to the Sweet 16, you're playing Auburn. So, you win some, you lose some in that scenario. Either way, the seeding is looking good overall, and we'll see where they land. If they're in Atlanta, Clemson fans definitely keep an eye on those tickets. That would be a fun one to see Clemson pretty close to home in a Sweet 16 game. Lastly, just want to quickly touch on baseball. Clemson wins the series again. I think it's their second sweep over the Gamecocks in the last 3 years. They've won 8 out of 11 series against the Gamecocks. It's crazy. You lose 2 out of 3 to the Gamecocks in basketball, where Clemson's a vastly superior program lately. You lose 2 out of 3 to them in football, where even in Clemson's kind of struggles, relatively speaking, vastly superior program. Think about baseball. I mean, I know South Carolina's been down, but they have the 2 national championships. You think of them, it's a great baseball program. That's where Clemson's kind of dominated. They were really 3 very competitive games, but they did sweep, and that's pretty darn impressive. Clemson cracking the top 10, cracking, I think it was the top 5 in one of the polls. This is a team that should be, it's very early, but I fully expect them to host at least a regional, if not be in line for a super regional host. The pitching was kind of the question, and there's definitely still depth questions about the pitching, but you had Aiden Knock in the Friday night game, gave up 3 earned runs, but then you had Lucas Malstead come in for 3 scoreless to close it out. So you got to think Knock will probably figure it out, and Malstead really shown something out of the bullpen. So that's really encouraging. Ethan Darden came in the second game, or started the second game, gives you 7 scoreless. He was fine last year, but not great. He seems to maybe elevated his game. He's got an ERA of 1 so far on the year. So very impressive early on. That's encouraging. Maybe you have a 1-2 punch in that rotation. Drew Titsworth gave 2 innings in that one earned run. He helped close it out. So impressive there. You're starting to say, okay, well, we got 2 good starters. Maybe we have 2 good relievers. Third game was Justin Lagernick. He gave you 4 scoreless. A younger guy, maybe he's not going to go as deep into games, but still encouraging that he seemed to settle down after getting shelled in Texas in that season opening tournament. Joe Allen comes in, gives you 3 scoreless. Reed Garris helps you close it out. Malstead pitched in that one too. He gave up a run, but second appearance of the weekend. Not gonna ding him for that too much. So you're seeing you got a couple guys in the bullpen. Maybe you have 4 guys you trust with Garris, Joe Allen, Malstead, Titsworth. You got at least 3 starters that are starting to look good. So maybe the pitching, I don't know if it's super deep, but we're getting positive signs, and the lineup is loaded. Dominic Listy is a 1-year kind of rental transfer from Indiana State. He's hitting 405 with a 574 on base. Just a elite guy to get on base, set the table. Love him in the leadoff spot. Cullen Priest is a transfer from Michigan. He's DHing. He's a sophomore. He could be at Clemson for a while. He's tied for the team lead with 4 doubles, has the lead with 2 home runs on the team. Feel pretty good about that addition. Jaden Purify, he's back. He was with Clemson last year, not a transfer. He's hitting 333. He's got 8 steals, 8 for 8, perfect. He had some huge hits, big home run. He was awesome in the series. Cam Canarella, kind of quietly hitting 297, but he had some clutch hits too that helped kind of end the game, give Clemson bigger leads, kind of close out the wins. Some clutch hits there. He's got a 435 on base. He's interestingly no steal attempts. Kind of makes me think of what we might see from Ronald Acuna this year, coming off an injury. Canarella with the shoulder. Acuna has the knee. I think we'll see him steal less. A little bit the same with Canarella. Why take a risk there? Love him not hitting 1. Love him deeper in the lineup at like 3 or 4. 3, I think, was a lot of the games. And this lineup's just so deep. They can't. It's not going to be the same lineup rolling out there. You got too many guys. You got to start. Tristan McGlady's really made a name for himself, playing right field, third base, getting on base. He's been good. Jack Crichton's a guy who proved himself last year. He's struggling to get at bats. They're just so deep. So you got, just tons of depth in the hitting, and then you're seeing enough of it pitching wise. Do you think this team could be Omaha bound? Very, very early. You don't want to put too much stock before you even start ACC play, but a lot to be encouraged about. Hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Trying to grow the subscribers. We're well over 1,000 now, and I appreciate everyone who has subscribed. And of course, don't forget to like the video. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through the whole thing. I always appreciate you guys. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts on football, basketball, and baseball. And as always, go Tigers.